to see you guys. So give it up for Miss Christie!
Good morning, guys. Super excited to be here with you guys. So this morning, I wanted to share with you guys, there were two things that helped me a ton. I remember when I was a sales rep and working, because I remember sometimes having people that were like, hey, I'm in a rush or I gotta go, and I was like, oh shit, like, and so doing a quick version, I remember there were a couple of times, this is not ideal, but it was kind of worst case scenario where I had someone who's like, look, I'm busy all day, like, there's just no way. And they were like, I have like a short window, but they had like 20 minutes, like where I remember go seeing this lady at her job and we sat in the break room for like, she's like 15 minutes ideal. I'm like, oh my gosh. By the way, she bought a complete set. I saw another lady in her break room. And again, these are like, I've done these 4 or 5 times out of 400. So this is not like a normal thing, but it was something that when I had um, what, and it's going straight to YouTube right now. But anyway, so when I had somebody that was like in a rush or had to go, or let's say I finished a demo and I was done at 4 and I had a demo at 5, right? And so you might be like, oh, I don't have enough time to do another one. But like they wanted to introduce me to their neighbor. And I'm like, I knew that I could rock a demo in 20 minutes if I needed to, and so I learned this. This is something my manager taught me. He's like, you have to be able, obviously your normal demo might take you an hour and 15, but you need to be able to rock a demo in 20 minutes if needed, and I was like, okay. And he taught me this. And I remember one of my guys, I taught this to Mike Arrieta. Mike Arrieta ended up being Silver Cup champion his first year out. He was 2 number 1 scholarship winners. And by the way, I'm going to need a blue book if I can get one, please. So I also, oh, thank you. But so I taught him this, and he was like, I remember the first day we did this workshop, like that day, he had a lady and that's where you're going to use it most often, where he finished a demo, he had an hour before his next one, and it was like 30 minutes away. But then he did this, like, he's like, do you happen to have a neighbor that I could see really quick before I go to my next appointment? I'd love to squeeze one more in. And she was like, actually, yeah, I think so. Let me call my girlfriend. And she was like, yeah, I'll help him. And so he went over there and he's like, all right, so here's what I'm doing. And so I'm going to walk you guys through that really fast. And then I want to show you guys the second thing is names and uses, which, by the way, the names and uses that I do for this demo is the same names and uses pretty much for somebody who doesn't cook, because it was just like a quick version, and that could adjust. Many times I ended up using that names and uses. But I want to show you guys. So what I learned years ago, and I used to teach this nationally on the FSM Elite, was, for me, I was like, if someone loves to cook, they should have a complete set, and back then we didn't have a signature, not till 2010. So when we added the signature, then I started selling the heck out of that. Babe, can I please have my water? I left it back there. So once the signature, then we added that. But when I started in 2002, it was the basic set and complete set. Cool, like those were our 2 sets. But for me, I was like, well, if someone loves to cook, like they should have a complete set. There's no reason not to have that if you like love to cook, because the homemaker was not designed for people that cook all the time. The homemaker was designed for somebody who has a kitchen, has a home, has a family, that cooks a couple times a week, but they're going to have it for life. They're going to have it 40, 50, years. So it's not that they're going to use every tool every day, but they're going to have everything they need when it comes to the basics of a kitchen. All right. So for me, I'm like, if someone doesn't cook, they would typically buy a homemaker. If they did cook, they would buy a complete set. And I used to sell several complete sets a week when I was a sales rep, and just like how you went through and how you showed that. So I think before I share anything, it all starts with like, attitude and like expectation, right? And so anything when it comes to sales, and by the way, this is for life, right? Like you want, whatever it is, you want to succeed at the highest levels. When you study the most successful people in the world at anything, their mentality is just different, and like what they think is going to happen, their expectations on things. And I love some of the most incredible like billionaires who I remember one like Clement Stone, W. Clement Stone or something. But I remember reading about him in one of my favorite books, Maximum Achievement, and he's described as an inverse paranoid. And you're like, and what that means, he says he feels everything in the world is conspiring to do him good. So everything that happens that we would say wrong, he's like, oh, this is serving me. Like it's turning me towards the direction I'm supposed to go. It's teaching me lessons I'm supposed to have in order for me to be more capable, stronger, and be able to really do this at the highest level. And I think about even here and being here, one of the things I love so much about Cutco is that you learn so many skills. And those who were there last Monday, I was talking about this with the Mr. Miyagi video, right? But you learn things you don't even realize like what you're learning until later. And you're like, oh my gosh, and there's skills that'll serve you for a lifetime. So know that, what I love about sales is that you have to get mentally strong. You have to build that mental muscle. You have to learn how to deal with rejection. You have to learn perseverance, right? And you have to learn expectation. Because if you go in, like it's the whole, you've heard the quote, I'm sure, by Henry Ford, if you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. Because the mind is so freaking powerful. And so what your brain's thinking about and what it expects to happen, like that ends up happening. Okay. So know that before you go into any appointment, before you go into any customer, if you go in there like, oh, I hope this goes good, like good luck. I'm not sure it's gonna go so hot, If you're going in there going like, oh, I don't think they're gonna buy, they're probably not going to. You'll be very surprised if they do, and I would be too, because you didn't even expect it, and you will have those random ones. But the top people, when you go field training, when you talk to the top guys, like they're shocked if someone doesn't buy, and that's why they have 95% closing ratio. Like they're just shocked, and not that they're ever pushing it, but they're just like, oh yeah, my customer loves this, they love this, like they know why Cutco, they know how good Cutco is, they know how much they're going to like love it. And when they're with customers, when they're with clients, they're really great about helping them get the most out of their time, and they know that they want to help them get like the best of whatever that they can get. So I want to show you guys how this works. So as far as doing a 15-20 minute demo, cool. So if your customer has time to jujitsu to a quick friend and you can squeeze an extra one in, boom, go do it. All right. So when you guys start off, so first off, the moment you walk in the door, rapport starts, cool, and you're telling them about what you're doing. So you're just like, oh, thank you so much. And as you're walking, I'm like, oh, where can we sit down, chop stuff up? But as we're walking, I'm like, yeah, so I'm actually a student, at Palm Beach Atlantic University, studying international business. Started working with this company, like, and whatever you normally share once you sit down, like, I'm sharing that as we're walking, cool, to wherever we're sitting. And we sit down, and I'm like, so right now, actually, the reason Miss Smith introduced me to you is that we're in a huge competition, and my goal is to be one of the top performers. And so I'm trying to do like 5 to 7 appointments a day. And I had a quick opening before I had to my next one. So thank you so much for just taking time out for me and letting me like sneak in here super quick. Be like, so I'm going to give you the super fast version. But this stuff is amazing. And if you want me to come back and give you the long version later, I'm more than happy to, just hang out with you once you get your stuff and like really show you everything and make sure you know how to use it. But again, what do you right there? Assuming the sale, right? Like, so I'm just saying, I'm like, yeah, if you want the long version later, I'm like, I'm happy to come back once you get your stuff, show you how to use everything, and we can cook dinner together and have some fun. All right. And the customer knows that and feels that. They're like, oh, wow, you must sell a lot of this stuff. I'm like, oh, yeah, I really love this stuff, So I'm like, all right, so quickly, so I'm like, so as far as my competition, I'm like, here's the deal. I'm trying to sell 20 grand this week. If you want to write me a check for 20 grand, then I'll definitely hit it. I'm like, no, but I'm like, just check this stuff out. Susie thought you would love it, So just so you're aware, everything is made in the USA, cool, since 1949. Everything's made here and only in New York. Everything's guaranteed forever. We make K-bar for the military, armed forces. I'm like, stuff is amazing. I'm like, let me show you an example. And then I'm like, I'm going to show you a couple of quick things so you can see the quality of the products. So right here, this took like a minute, right, for me to explain this or less. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show them the scissors, the leather, and the rope all in one. Cool. I do that all right there. I'm like, let me show you a couple of products real quick. So instead of the scissors and the peeler, I'm doing the scissors and the leather for sure. But I do the scissors, the leather, and the rope, So I'm like, so let me show you a couple things. Like actually grab your best, serrated, your best blade edge, your best steak knife. Like, let me show you this. Like, so first off, these are scissors. You can use these outdoors, indoors. You can use them for paper. You can use them for metals. Like, check it. And I'm talking about it as I'm cutting the patty. And they're like, like, they're pretty awesome, right? And they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, so as you can see, super high quality. I'm like, check this out. I'm like, pretend you're cutting a steak. And I'm like, cut here. And they're like cutting the leather. And so I'm just like, I just do the showing them in the air. If it's thin like this, I usually double it up, but I'm like, cut a little bit and just push. I don't let them keep going. Just like, cut a little bit. Okay, cool. And then just push. And they're pushing. And I'm like, all right, now grab ours. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, so I'll explain the edge and how that works in a moment. But ours cut forward, back and down. They don't rip and tear. different type of edge. I'm like, and actually you can really see that on the road. Go ahead and grab your serrated knife and start here, and I'll have them start in the back and just go through there. And then go ahead and grab your straight edge, and then go ahead and use that. I'm like, you see how it cuts clean? I'm like, that's how the edge is. So we've done all that right there. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, so I'm like, the products, again, highest quality, and I'll show you like how, what they're made out of right now and stuff. But biggest thing is that they're guaranteed forever. I'm like, but this right here, biggest reason I said the most expensive set of knives that you're gonna find are these right here. I'm like, and any guess why they're the most expensive that you're gonna find? And typically most people are like, just replacing them. Then you'll have the ones that are like, I don't know. I'm like, well, they're actually really cheap, short run. I go, but with these, you end up replacing them, over and over your lifetime. So you spend a lot more. I said, so the average kitchen spends a couple grand replacing crap over and over and over. So, why not buy good stuff a couple times or Cutco once, right? Because I always would say, I'm like, why not buy good stuff a couple times or buy Cutco once? And that's what most people, So when you guys go through this right here should take you literally 30 seconds. I'm like, sets with wood, disgusting. They absorb everything. It's a plastic chip crack melt. That makes it last long. A lot of sets are improperly constructed, so the blade doesn't go all the way through. They're not balanced. These little guys, they're called rivets. Sometimes they have them, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just glued in. But you want to make sure the blade goes all the way through so it's nice and balanced. So like sets with carbon, they recommend for they use that for access machetes, a lot of outdoor stuff. Holds a great edge, but it rusts and corrodes. Sets with stainless. These right here, actually, my speaker really not working. Sets with stainless. They're super clean. By the way, there's somebody who can't hear me because I can't let them on. It says there's an attendee, but it won't let me click it. I don't know if you okay. So sets with stainless. These right here, they rip and tear, or excuse me, they're super soft, so they dull really easily. And if you have serrated, again, they rip and tear. And then, so your best is a combo, and I'll show you that. Cool. And they're like, all right. So it's like in the beginning, maybe you spent a minute and a half because it's like 20 seconds telling them a couple things about it, but then you're like, you can talk as you cut. And I'm like, oh, this is this is that. This right here should take you 30 seconds to go through, a minute tops, like tops. And then we got to the third. So by the way, we've already hit 3 of our 7 objectives. Cool. Remember, there's 7 steps to a sale. Like build rapport. We're doing that as we're walking in. We're letting them know about why we just came to see them, how we have this huge contest. I'm trying to get one more before I have to run over to blank side of town. So thanks for squeezing me in super short. I'm like, I'm going to give you the quick version. I'm like, and I'm more than happy to come back once you get your stuff and walk you through everything, cook dinner and have some fun with you. That's for sure. But then we go through that, So let's say we're at 3 minutes. And now we go to features and benefits. All right, features and benefits will take you a minute and a half to go through, because again, we already cut the rope, right? So we don't need to cut the rope here. So I'm like, hey, Miss Jones, let me tell you why Cutco costs what it does. There's 5 features that make them the best. I'm like, first is the actual handle. You see how it fits in your hand. And so you're going through these. And I'm like, second is the actual, materials used, or it is, whatever. And so you go through the 5 features. And so that takes you a minute. You're just telling them it's just fast. I'm like, this costs more because of this. I'm like, then we have this feature. We have this feature. I'm like, the steel, it's awesome. Do the best of both worlds. Stay sharp, stays clean. I'm like, it's a surgical steel. So, that's it. That's all I say about it. And then and the biggest reason Cutco costs what it does, I told you in the beginning, everything's guaranteed forever. I'm like, so you literally buy once, use every day, and never have to buy again. And you guys see how I slowed down there? I do the same thing. I'm telling them this, and then those main key points. And I'm like, so you literally buy once, use every day, and never have to buy it again. You can pass it down generation after generation. And they're like, oh, wow. I'm like, yeah, pretty cool, right? I'm like, so Miss Jones, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the sets, and then we'll go through prices. So that's it. That's what I'm going to, and this is how I show them. So I'm going to show you sets, and then we're going to go through prices. And see if there's anything that you like. I'm like, and then I'll, we can flip through the accessories stuff there as well. Cool. I'm like, so just so I know, do you cook because you like to, have to, or love to? How many times a week would you say you cook? Okay, cool. But I sound like, do you cook because you like to, because you have to? I'm like, how many times a week would you say you cook? And when you have place settings for the table, do you like to have a traditional setting of 8, 12, or 16? And I always like to know that before I go into sets. And they tell me, I'm like, all right, awesome. I'm like, so we've got 3 family sets. All right, so I'll walk through these real quick. We've got 3 family sets. This is our complete set. This is for people who love to cook, love to entertain, or just love to have the best of everything. All right. We have our basic set for people who don't cook. This was designed to cover your basic cutting needs in a kitchen for a lifetime. All right. And then we have one in between. That's for the people that do like the pretty basic entertaining. And that one, we got that one about 10 years ago because customers were asking for one in between. And it's one of our most purchased. All right. So let me walk you through the sets here real quick. I'm like, so your basic set, I'm like, even if you don't cook much, I'm like the first tool in your set. And so right now I'm just going to do my, actually, if we're doing a fast demo, I'm just like, hey, Ms. Jones, the first one your set is your air knife. Do you ever cut anything in the air? I'm like, well, that's what you use it for. I'm like, the next one your set's your small utility. Do you guys ever cut limes or lemons or oranges, like these small things? I'm like, cool, all your fist size stuff, that's what you would use that for. I'm like, then the next one your set is your sandwich. I'm like, do you guys ever make sandwiches? Or do like cream cheese on bagels, peanut butter and jelly, brownies, cakes, you know? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, cool. I'm like, that's what you use it for because it's really nice for spreading. You can cut with it, you can scoop with it. It's fantastic. I'm like, the next tool is your petit carve. I'm like, this one I showed you before. I'm like, do you guys ever have like medium-sized fruits and veggies, leftover carving? You know, do you guys eat cantaloupe? I'm like, this is great for eggplant, like any medium-sized fruits and veggies and like small roast, fantastic for that. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, the next tool is your turning fork. I'm like, so when you guys are turning on the stove, or do you guys ever make hot dogs or hamburgers or have anything that you're like turning? I'm like, that's for turning and serving. It has beveled edges, so you can grab things out of the jar too. Cool. I'm like, then these two people confuse them. I'm like, because it's a big knife, right? And so my grandma had this, and she was like, big knife, whack things with it. And this is actually the most delicate knife. I'm like, have you ever seen the chefs on TV cooking? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, and they're like, you know, chopping stuff up, and you're like, it definitely doesn't look like that in my kitchen. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, this actually will help you do that. I'm like, and if we have time, I'll have them chop. But if not, we're not cutting anything here. I'm just getting a yes real quick. On my fast demo. Cool. So I'm on my 20-minute demo. So I'm like, so this right here, I'm like, you ever have tough things in the freezer and it's like hard to cut, or like ribs or lobster tail or anything, you just kind of want to whack at it, or some root vegetables? Like, yeah, I'm like, this is made for that. I'm like, you see how it has a thicker part in the front? It's kind of like the Aladdin knife. I'm like, so that's your whacking knife. I'm like, this is your delicate chopping knife, and I can show you how to use that. Then you have your bread and your master carving set. Cool. That's your basic tools. So again, air knife, small utility, your sandwich maker, everyday carving and prep set, or you can use them separate. You have a heavy duty, you have a delicate chopper, you have a bread knife, and you have your master carving set. So like I said, it's made to cover the basic tools, even if you don't cook. And then it comes with a traditional set of the little ones I showed you in the beginning. It has 8 of them, all right? And you can definitely add more. Now our signature set has those tools and a couple extras. So this one has the option of 10 table knives or 10 steak knives. Obviously, there is a small price difference. You have the scissors that I showed you actually come in this block. This has the cheese knife, which is amazing. It has holes in it so it doesn't stick to the block. You get nice thin slices. This is in the chopping family. So if you're cutting like larger veggies or someone's helping you in the kitchen, this is really good for your smaller mincing. And then the last one is the Hardy Slicer, which is in the heavy duty family. So this is for whacking, and this is for muscling through the tougher jobs. And Miss Jones, the complete set are the basic tools and the specialty knives. Cool. And I can walk through those if you wanted me to. But if you were considering a set for your, like, I don't even say anything, you know, unless they're like, well, what's in that? But I'm like, if you were considering a set for your family forever, I'm like, do you think you'd want to have a complete set so you have everything, the signature family set, or just the basic tools, you know? And, you know, I had one customer and she was like, well, we cook a lot. She's like, so you said probably this one, right? And I'm like, I 100% recommend this if you love to cook. I was like, happy families, love to entertain. And like, because you'll have multiple people in the kitchen. And they're like, okay, cool. And I was like, well, I said, we have a bunch of accessories and stuff too. I said, I won't go through all of those right now, but just so you know, we do have flatware, we do have cookware. I said, we have a lot of gadgets. You can buy extra, like table knives, steak knives. You can actually pick some of these out for free. You end up, you know, wanting to try that set out. But there's different gadgets that are fantastic, additional cheese knives. We have sporting and hunting knives that are military grade. Fishing knives, and like people absolutely love this stuff. You've got your gardening tools, you've got barbecue tools, you've got, and then just a bunch of gift sets if you like weddings. All right. But let's talk prices before we wrap up. Have you had a chance to look at prices of buying cutlery lately? Yeah. It's like anything else. You know, there's a wide variety of quality and prices. Cutco's top rated, so we only compare the highest quality. So have you been to like Macy's or Williams Sonoma or Bed Bath & Beyond before? Okay, cool. I'm like, so I have here is actually comparisons on the prices at Williams Sonoma. I'm like, they're very similar at Bed Bath & Beyond and Macy's. And I'm like, depending on which set you're looking at. So these brands have different sets that range in price. kind of like a BMW has a 357 series. So you will see different prices. This is the 7 Series fully loaded model. All right. So obviously they're not cheap. They're fantastic. We've got our blue stuff. Those are German. We got the Shun, which are Japanese. These are the most purchased. As you can see, they retail for over 3,000. You can find them on Sellers, but they are fantastic. The big differences with us and them, though, with them you have to sharpen them every time they're used. They're warranty. And I go through, right? I go through the clothes. And I'm like, so if you're looking at, when it, excuse me, most people don't cut how it's twice good, twice the color, twice the value. I'm like, which obviously you're talking twice the what? And I always do this, like when I'm in a live demo, I'm like, you're talking twice the what? I'm like, yeah. So at twice the money, I'm like, you're looking at, even if you look at the sale price, you'd be looking at over, $1,000 for a set, for a basic set of Costco. All right, so it would be like buying a really nice refrigerator or a really nice set of tools. And this shows the great thing is that for 4,000, although they would go to stores. As a matter of fact, they're not even as much as these here, which retail over 3,400. Actually, our complete set, which is double the knives and guaranteed forever. That's great. Double the knives and guaranteed forever. Is actually only 26. So yeah. So our and I always just quote this but our complete set, which is double the knives and guaranteed forever, is actually only 20. So that's pretty fantastic. It's cheaper than the ones that are half the size, in stores. If you wanted to try that today, and I was talking to this lady, Miss Crystal, and I was like, Miss Crystal, if you wanted to try that today, I know you haven't had a chance to use everything. We didn't get to see everything. What most of my customers do is use our deposit program. And what this allows you to do is that you can put down 100% refundable deposit on the sets. You can just try it out and see how you like it. And it's 20%. And it actually gives you 3 weeks to just try it and see how you like it. Cool. So if you wanted to try that set out, the deposit comes out to, I have no idea. Don't quote me. I don't have any it comes out that I said, so basically you put the deposit, get the products, use them, abuse them, make sure you love them, and worst case, yeah, free customers. Like I like that. That stuff is amazing. You can also come back to this. But at the end of the 3 weeks, basically you can either call and pay the whole thing off, right? Or by 30 days, call and pay the whole thing off, or they'll charge you the same amount for 30 days, but you pay, and that ends up coming out to I'm making up numbers completely, do not right. $140, $140 a week that would break down to, which comes out to like $70. Cool. So as a buy now bonus, we have something called First Call Special. If you wanted to buy that today, you could actually get free. You could pick out up to $350 of whatever you want for free. So you could pick out some of those accessories, extra steak knives, extra table knives. Maybe some gifts for people. I don't know. Some people are like, I'm not giving anyone gifts. It's all for me. I was like, and then some people like to buy a bunch of gifts for like their friends and like fishing knives and stuff for their husband or hunting knives. So I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you, is that a set you want to go out and try? And like you could either favorite and pull if you wanted, or just they could try it out just to make it. Yeah. All right. And then if not, then we drop down. I had one that was like, oh, I don't want to do all that. And then the drop down is real simple. It's like, hey, the smaller set is this. And they're like, yeah, I don't know if I want all that. I'm like, well, if you're going to make your perfect set, what are your 4 favorites? And then I show the starter sets, you're going to buy an essential set. And so you got to be comfortable with your stuff, but it comes back to expectation and confidence, right? Like, how are you internally? And you just like super versus like don't freak out, you have the best stuff ever and they liked it. Now the next step, if they don't buy one of the larger sets, the next step is just let's find what's best for them today. Cool. And so for some people that's going to be a galley, some people it's going to be a starter set. Like it's going to be different for everybody. So just don't forget that. Cool. So my last thing is my names and uses for somebody who doesn't cook. So when I ask someone, do you cook because you like to? They're like, oh, we never cook. All right. When I show the homemaker and I explain the names and uses, this is what I do. I'm like, so the first knife is for anything you cut in the air. I'm like, so if you guys are like peeling strawberries or avocado, or you have a peach or a nectarine or any fruit, and you're like cutting pieces, like my mom eats it in the air. Like anything you're gonna do in the air, this is what you want to use for. It's the safest knife for anything in the air. Like, all right, cool. The next one, I'm like, hey, do you guys ever cut limes and lemons for like Coronas? Or you have like, that's it. Like, hey, I'm like any small slicing. I'm like, this is great. I'm like, and if you don't cook a lot for any like small cutting that you need to do, here's what you would use. Cool. Then the next tool, I talk about, I always joke around. I'm like, so this is when you make those like cakes from scratch, and like, and they're like, yeah, right, right. Because if they don't cook, like I'm kind of making fun of them. But I'm like, when you make those cakes from scratch, like my grandma likes to make, and I'm like, yeah, right. I'm like, when you go buy that like Duncan Hines $3 brownie mix and you add the water and an egg, I'm like, put it in the oven, take it out. I'm like, boom, cut, scoop, serve. I'm like, or when you buy those frozen like amazing apple pies or berry pies that you buy at Costco or HEB, and you take them. And I said, and you take them out of the freezer and put them in the oven and take it out, cut, scoop, serve. I'm like, it's awesome because it scoops underneath it and it's really easy. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. But again, they can relate to that, right? And they're like, oh yeah, I eat frozen stuff all the time, right? So I'm like, the quick brownie mix, the frozen pies, whatever it is, just real easy. I'm like, the next tool is your petit carver. I'm like, so this right here, when you go to HEB and they have those chicken rotisserie chicken's already made. I'm like, this is great for that. I'm like, so carving those. I said, and I'm sure you cut everything from scratch, and they laugh, and I'm like, I'm just kidding. I'm like, I'm sure you buy a lot of pre-cut fruits and veggies, and they're like, yeah. I'm like, by the way, I will tell you this in terms of saving money. I go, a lot of people don't buy the whole because it's just a pain, right? But like these knives actually make it so easy. I said you can literally cut a pineapple in like less than a minute and save yourself a couple bucks each time. I go in my house, like saving $3 3 times a week, it's $9. Might not sound like a lot, but like that's almost $500 in the course of the year. And over 10 years, that's $5,000. I'm like, I'd rather take $5,000 and go on a kick-ass vacation to Europe. I'm like, but so for your, again, smaller pre-made stuff, I go, but if you did want to save some money, it's awesome. It's so easy. It works so quick. Turning fork, if you're taking olives, pickles out of jars, if you're turning burgers, if you have like frozen burgers, frozen hot dogs, whatever, like it's great for that. Your butcher, like my mom would buy bags of frozen chicken wings from Costco, like barbecue chicken wings or like different things where they have those big bags, and they're like, yeah. I'm like, and so instead of defrosting the whole bag, she'd take it out of the freezer, boom, separate what she needed, put the rest back in there, and so she loved that for a lot of her like frozen stuff, or she buys because she likes to save money, so she buys a lot of stuff bulk. Like we'll buy bulk ground beef, bulk this. So it's really nice. The chopper, honestly, you're gonna save so like it goes back to the money. You're gonna save so much money, and actually, when you learn how to use it, it's really fun. And so, when someone who doesn't cook, I always show them how to use that one. I'm like, here, take this out. Let me just show you. And they're like, oh, wow. I'm like, so those days where you're like, I'm gonna be the best mom in the world award today, and you want to get up and make omelets or something, like it makes it so much easier. And again, you're saving so much more money by buying stuff whole instead of pre-cut, and it's real easy to use when you have good stuff. I was like, when you don't, I understand. I'm like, it's a pain in the butt, to sit there and cut everything. So so much easier. I'm like, and then you have your bread knife. Every house needs a bread knife. It's also great for frozen, like ice cream cakes and stuff too. And if you go to Costco and get the pre-made cakes or angel food cakes, it just slides right through in your master carving set a couple times a year when you bring up that roast. Cool. And you're like, oh, perfect. Do you guys see that, by the way? And so for someone who doesn't cook, could they relate to all of that? Yeah. And the goal, if you're going to sell any set, they need to go, oh, I use that. Okay, I'm going to use that. Okay, I'm going to use that. Right? Like that's what they need to be saying internally if you're going to sell the sets. All right. And babe, if you want to set up for wrap up. So those are my couple tips for you guys this morning. I know I went a little bit over. I was only going to teach one of those things, but I thought it's just good to know how to do quick appointment. So again, just like get right to it. You're just like sharing goals as you're walking in. All right. And then when you talk about the company, how long does it take to talk about the company? Like 30 seconds. All right. But then what are you going to do in terms of cutting right there? Quickly. All three. You're talking about it as you're cutting the penny, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, this stuff is really good. I'm like, so all of our stuff's super high quality. I'm like, check this out. I'm like, this right here will show you how the edges work, and I show them the leather, show them the rope, so they can see that. And then junk knives, again, super quick, but explaining, make sure they understand, like, hey, this is your most expensive set, and the idea is why. I'm like, they're cheap short run. You just end up spending so much more. So you buy crap over and over, you buy good stuff a couple times, or you buy a couple of things, right, and never have to change it. You have that, and then you keep going through. Once you finish the guarantee, you're hitting your points real quick, and then again, and then slow down. The biggest reason, like again, you buy it once, use it every day, you never buy it again. And just so I know, I'm going to show you the sets. And then right there, I always give them so in their head, they know we're almost done, especially if they were the one in the rush, right? But I'm like, hey, so I'm just going to show you the sets real quick and wrap up with prices. So they know right after the guarantee, that's where we're headed. And by the way, we've only spent about, 7 minutes so far by the time we're getting to that point. So if they buy a complete set, you can do that in 15 minutes. It's the extra 5 minutes it'll take for dropping down and figuring out which set, and it could take a little longer, but you'll learn and through experience, to get quicker and see like, what do they like? And like, let's help them get what's best for them. Right. But I like knowing, do they like to cook whatever? So I know how to give the names and uses, but I just go through those real quick. During that part, we're not cutting unless we have the time to do it. I'm just going to say, hey, this is what you use for this. So we wouldn't cut during that time. If I had 15 minutes. All right. I just want to make sure they say, oh yeah, I use that. Oh yeah, I use that. And then I'm assuring them when I close, hey, you haven't had a chance to use it. You'll have 3 weeks to use it. Make sure you love it, and make that final decision on what you do. So make sure you guys are good with that. Cool. So I'm gonna hand it over. So feedback, just so I know from you guys, most helpful, any feedback, things you took away, or any questions you guys have. Quickly, 2 or 3 people. Huh? Oh, Rex, once we figure out what they're doing, then I ask for Rex once we figure out their order. So while I'm doing their order, they're writing down Rex. So once I find out what they like, you're not putting it online and then asking for Rex. Actually, I never do that. I find out what they like and I go, all right, so one last thing while I clean up here real quick and wrap up. I'm like, so I get paid every time I do it, whatever. And one of them that was a rush demo, she gave me 30 people. One gave me 20 people. The one at the office gave me like 12 people, but I was still able to like brainstorm with them as I was doing their order and even putting online like, oh, who's nice from here? Oh, who's nice from here? You have to be attentive. So you're kind of multitasking if you want to maximize your recs and making sure you keep them going, you keep them right. So definitely always, I never left without recs. I one lady leave and she literally was like, I have 15 minutes and we did a quick demo. She ended up buying this was actually in 2011. So she bought a signature set, I remember. And then she's like, all right, let's go, kids, we gotta go. And so I'm like telling her about recommendations and she's like, I'm like, don't worry, I'll write I'm like, I'll chase you around. And she started laughing. She's like, all right. I go, who's nice from work? She's like, Sandra. And I'm like writing down names while she's like putting raincoats on the kids, doing whatever. And Christy was like, come on, let's go. She's like, oh, Suzette. And I'm like, oh, who's nice from work? And I'm like writing, by the way, we wrote down 30 people. And then, but I'm just writing names, all right, which is actually how you do a virtual. You just write down names first. But I'm like just writing down names as I'm like walking around the living area and kitchen as she's like getting the kids ready to go. And then right when she finished up, I'm like, all right, cool, here's where you sign. And then I said phone numbers and she grabbed her phone out and wrote down phone numbers real quick. She's like, all right, I gotta go. She's like, let yourself out. I gotta run. And she like left and I was like, okay. She was like, just let yourself out the back door, and then I wrapped up and put the rest of my stuff away and left. But not everyone's like that, but she was like, I gotta go. But she like gave me all the phone numbers and then just dipped out, I had one that gave me like some of the phone numbers and she's like, just call me for the rest. I really gotta go. I'm like, no problem, and I called her back, but I had already gotten like 7 or 8 of the phone numbers. And then I sent her a picture so she knew the rest. And got it. So you don't always want to do that. Again, that's an emergency or a quick, but that was just bonus because I wouldn't have had that demo. I wouldn't have had that the time to do that. And they were able to squeeze me in, or I was able to squeeze them in between appointments. Especially when you're in a push period, like just go for it. That's how when Mike learned that, like Mike sold 50 grand in 2 weeks, and he was doing like 7 to 9 appointments a day, and people were like, how? But he'd have like usually 2 of them would be like those quick in between squeezed in ones. That he got extra. He'd have 5 or 6 on the day, and he ended up finishing with like 7 completed because he'd find different ones or alley-oops. You can wrap us up. But I would love to hear feedback from you guys because that's something that helps us make sure we know what's helping you guys.